And then I think I just wait for the YouTube to kick in. Oh, something's happening. Something is happening. It looks like a dark gray. Oh, wait, no. Okay, we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night. It is 7:30, which means that if you're in the mood for some alt-right, super Tory sensibilities, you are in the wrong fucking place, because I am sat here in my cabin. I'm joined this week for episode 21 of Thompsin and Other Disappointments by my friend Bounce Back Billy. Billy, how's it going? You all right?
Oh, I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad for now. I feel like I need to sort of like pre-apologize to anyone that's listening to this episode, because I sound husky as fuck and it's like 7:30. I've been deteriorating all day, and I think maybe by the end of this episode I might have lost my voice. I don't know. Let's see how we go.
Some people prefer the voice where it goes a bit like that.
Yeah, I've been pretending, like, to my kids, I've been pretending to be like a sort of nature-y kind of, not David Attenborough, but like that genre of program, right? So
Your voice would have to go considerably more to get to David Attenborough.
yeah, well, it's like I was, my son was like finishing up his food, and I was just being a bell end, like hovering around him, going, Jacob is finishing his food in his natural habitat, and like stuff that, you know, self-amusing, like ways to make my afternoon pass quicker. I'm not sure he found it funny, but
Is that nature documentary, or is that just a bit lurchy?
maybe a bit of both.
Jake is finishing his food.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about my health problems and weird voice. How's your week been? All right?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've had some time off. I can't remember what I did with it.
No,
Why is that always the case?
I don't know. It's like you sort of spend all this time kind of thinking, well, this is what I do. Like when I'm at work and I don't have time off, or, you know, my diary is just blown out by family stuff. I always think, God, if I could just get a day to myself, if I could just have an afternoon, I'd work on this thing and this idea and this project. And then when I do actually get some time to myself, which is never, but when I do, then it's like, oh, I just sit there and fucking eat pizza and watch shit TV, you know?
That reminds me what I did. Yeah. Oh, how was your time alone? Oh, yeah, it was all right, I think.
Yeah.
What did you do? I got a bit lonely.
Yeah. Made some TikToks and shouted at the TV screen when Dominic Cummings was on. That's probably how a lot of people's weeks went this week, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it's been a weird week politically, hasn't it? It's been, some have said explosive. I don't know what I was expecting on Wednesday, but I didn't expect it to be a pound for pound, like every 2 minutes of that testimony there would be another fucking like bombshell revelation of like essentially confirming what people like you and I have been sort of
I've been saying,
losing our shit about for like 4 years or so. It's like it's hard not to feel a little bit aggrieved. Like it's you feel righteous, right? You feel like, oh, fucking, I'm not losing my mind. It is a load of bollocks, and they are all crooks, and they don't know what they're doing. They're incompetent as fuck. There's that, but it's also it's also a bit like, you motherfuckers. Like, we've been saying this for 4 years that this guy is not suitable to be the, you know, and then
why does it need Brain from Pinky and the Brain to get in a shirt and tell you?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, the other thing I've noticed in the last couple of days has been people saying that his testimony should not be trusted because he was apparently untrustworthy last year. So, you know, if we didn't believe him with Barnard Castle, then why do we suddenly think he's this, you know...
Was he that untrustworthy last year? I thought he was a killer of the community.
Yeah, I mean... It dumbfounds me that people can be this fucking stupid, to be honest. Like, it's one of these things where people, they know the difference between Barnard Castle and this shit. They fucking know. Either they know it and they're pretending that they don't know it, or they are too dumb to enter the conversation. But whichever one of those they want to choose is fine by me. But it's like...
there's I did a naughty thing and I still want to get away with that.
Yeah.
And there's 130,000 people are dead, and people need to pay the price for that.
Yeah, precisely. It's like, and it's also the difference between evidenced truth and I don't know, like what was clearly bollocks but couldn't be proven to be bollocks. So like this, like what last year with the Barnard Castle thing, I knew it was a load of rubbish. He was saying, you knew it was a load of rubbish. Like all of the papers were outraged by it. Everyone was demanding that he be kicked out of the. I was about to say kicked out of the cabinet, but he's not. He wasn't a cabinet actual like minister, right? But kicked out of government, right?
Yeah.
So everyone knew that it was a load of rubbish, and he failed to acknowledge that or address it in a mature, credible way. So there's that, and then this year there is a load of incompetence and corruption going on that's cost the lives, as you said, of like 130, 150,000 people. And he's got the evidence. He's got documents and messages, and there's evidence there to prove that this is true. Whereas last year it was like, we're all pretty sure you're full of shit, but so there's a very clear distinction there.
Yeah, because all you could say is you didn't take your son and wife on a drive with you for an eye test, and he goes, yes, I did. And we just go, well, you're a fucking idiot if you did.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
I mean, you can't discount idiocy. So it's like, what's the saying? Like, don't look for a conspiracy where idiocy could explain it. I'm butchering that quote, but it's something like that. It's like,
yeah, it's something along those lines. Did you hear he stood by the line when he was in front of the select committee and said, oh, come on, if I was going to think of a lie, I'd think of a better lie than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you should have then. You should have done that then.
It's an interesting defense, isn't it? It's like, oh, come on, I'm a better bad guy than that. That's like what you're saying. It's like, come on.
I'm a mastermind of manipulation. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know, man. He's like, so there was a shit ton of stuff that came out in that testimony. Obviously, it was about 6 hours long.
I think it was 7 hours, 7 minutes.
Was it?
That's what I heard on the radio. It was 7 hours, 7 minutes.
What a fucking shambles. That
with very few breaks for going to the toilet or anything like that. Normally they'll like have a proper intermission with like a lunch break or something. This was just like, all right, you can have a piss or take a shit, then you're getting straight back here and we're carrying on.
Yeah. Well, good for them. I mean, it's good. Like he detests MPs. He hates Westminster. He hates journalists. So if nothing else, it's great to see him sat in that hot seat having to answer some questions because he's so fucking elusive. Considering the size of his fucking ego, you would think he would be...
I thought you were just going to say the size of his head.
Well, it has to contain the ego, right?
Yeah.
But for somebody with that much ego, you would think he would have the same traits of narcissism as Boris Johnson, where he likes to be, in front of the cameras and to be seen to be the... like the leader that people go to, but he's not really like that, is he? He's much more of a sort of Machiavellian, sit back in the chair stroking the cat kind of figure.
Because he wants to be the one in control of everything else.
Yeah. It's an interesting, like the difference in, like, let's say for argument's sake, they're both massive psychopaths, right? But they're different kinds of psychopaths, aren't they? Like Johnson is a sort of paranoid narcissist, callous still, but just needs to be the center of attention. Cummings is a sort of there's a meanness to him,
for sure.
Like,
there is.
Everything is about settling scores, and I read a quote one time where somebody said, might have been Marina Hyde actually, said we're all paying the price for girls in his sixth form laughing at his ideas. And I was like, that's perfect, because I can totally see that happening. Like him in sixth form of his private college or wherever the fuck it was that he was educated, somebody laughs at him and he's like, now I'll show you. And that's his driving force,
He's just ran on spite for like 4 decades.
Yeah, it's nuts.
There is a quote from his time with the select committee though, that he'd said to Boris Johnson. So this kind of throws the Boris Johnson's a bit more lovable than he is.
Oh, right.
Weirdly, out the window. So what he had said to Boris Johnson was, Uh, by the end of the year, meaning by the end of 2020, I'm going to be out.
Yeah.
I'll be out of this, um, because this is chaos. This house is chaos, and you are more afraid of me having the control
Yeah.
to stop the chaos than you are of the chaos itself.
Yeah.
And Boris Johnson said, "Yes, yes, I am."
Yeah. And
Like,
didn't he caveat?
fuck.
He was like, he likes, like Johnson was saying, I like the chaos, you know, because chaos means that everyone has to come to me.
Come to me. Yeah,
I'm like, that's a fucking weird thing to say. That's a really like psychopathy thing to come out with, to be like, I like bad things happening to everyone because that means they all have to come to me and then I'm in control. Like it's
that's like height of the Messiah complex.
yeah. But then it's like I can't remember who like which episode it was. I was talking to somebody about this a few weeks ago, and I was saying like the fascinating thing about narcissism is that it's so paper thin. Like what it actually is a huge vacuum of self. So
Mm.
where you self-loathe and you don't have like you feel like there's a chasm within you, and you like, how do you feel that? Because either you weren't loved by your parents, or you weren't given enough attention, um or you weren't nurtured, or like whatever the reason is, there is a real hole there. And so rather than fill it with things that actually bring you joy, or you know, that help other people and you get that buzz from helping someone, what it actually is it's narcissism and ego filling that same place, so
Yeah.
that then like ultimately you're sort of complete, but it's like it's fucking weird. Like you just scratch beneath the narcissism and then there's nothing there. It's kind of tragic.
It, it's fragile.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
why
but you just go, just me, me. I'm great. This is everything. I am everything.
yeah, but it's like it's I am so great because I know deep down actually I'm not. So if I overcompensate for how great I am, then you would never dream that I'm actually insecure, and you know.
Yeah, a bit. I think you mentioned it recently. A bit. What is it? Imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
but not having the wherewithal to know that you might be an imposter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something, yeah. So I was talking about this earlier in the week about how he cures any sense of imposter syndrome that anyone has.
Self.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's so drunk on like Churchillian nostalgia that he just, you know, as far as I think I even titled the video something along the lines of Boris Johnson is a child in his father's suit pretending to do his dad's job. That's what it feels like. Is like he's so drunk on Churchillian nonsense that for him this is
Mm.
all a game. Like it's all Arrested Development, schoolboy japes. He goes into number 10 every day, sits down behind his desk, checks the papers. Like that's how he governs. It's not anything to do with this is the policy that we decided in the manifesto. This is the policy that we were talking about last week about how to improve things for this type of person's life and these underprivileged. There's none of that. It's just, fuck, what are they bashing me about? What are they scratching away at that narcissism about today? How can I
A-
prove them wrong?
And the only way he seems to be able to prove them wrong is U-turn.
Yeah.
He's done so many U-turns. He's got to be fucking dizzy.
Yeah. You're right. It's like, I mean, I was putting tweets out. Is it, I mean, to be fair to him, he hasn't done one. Has he done one recently? Don't know if he has. But there
I
was,
don't check Twitter enough.
I mean, there was a succession of them, and at one point I was like, I can smell another U-turn coming. Like it was so. It was around the time that all the like Rashford school meal stuff was kicking off, and there was a couple of other things, and I was just like, this is fucking nuts. This is like government by opposition, right? Because it's like they'll announce that they're doing something, and then everyone will say, whoa, I don't know about that. Then all the papers get behind it and say, yeah, we don't know about that either. And then Johnson reads the headline in the morning and goes, oh, well,
Yeah, we can't be doing that then.
yeah, I don't know. But like going back to the Cummings testimony,
Yeah, yeah.
I think probably the most interesting part of that for me was the herd immunity stuff. So like where he was talking about, he said like they had privately agreed within number 10 that herd immunity was the policy. Uh, and then they had briefed journalists on it. So that's why Peston had talked about it. That's why Koonsberg had talked about it, and so on. So everyone was under the impression that this was route that we were going. Just let it go through the population, and we would build up this herd immunity, right? And then I think Cummings shared a picture of the whiteboard from the conversations that they'd had internally. And they had reversed out of this. They had decided that this would overload the NHS, and it would cause, like the deaths would soar. There would be bodies in the street, kind of.
Oh yeah,
right.
Like best case scenario was like 250,000.
Yeah. So they reversed out of it silently, and it was like there was no confirmation, no acknowledgement that they had made a mistake. No, look, we've decided to switch tack on this, and here's the reasons why. They just pretended that it had never happened. And so then Cummings said he was baffled why they didn't confirm this out, to the media, why they didn't acknowledge it. And Johnson refused. He didn't want to sort of give any ammunition to the opposition and to newspapers. And then he said that he was baffled why they still continue to deny and lie that this was ever the policy when it's written in government documents, which he then brought along to this thing. And he had messages, and he said he was briefing Koonsberg. He was like, it absolutely was the policy. And so anyone that's watching this briefing, this committee appearance, is thinking, why the fuck wouldn't you just say, we got it wrong? Look, we're in panic mode here. We're in war rooms. We're in Cobra meetings. We're just trying to do the best thing, and we made a mistake.
Well, most of us are in Cobra meetings.
Right. But yeah, fair point. But like, why not just say, you got it wrong, and now you're switching tack because you realize that this is actually the better route to take? Oh, and again, like, why not just acknowledge that now, like a year later, and say, look, we were a little bit funny about it around then, but yes, okay, it was and the answer to both of those questions really is they shit their tits about newspaper coverage. Like, Johnson is obsessed with headlines and newspapers.
With his image.
Yes, exactly. He's an ex-tabloid journalist himself. He would claim a broadsheet journalist. I dispute that.
He might have been in a broadsheet, but he was a tabloid journalist.
Right, yeah. And so, yeah, you get into this situation where you're like, well, why is he so, like, why would you deny and lie about, like, this? Right, here's the thing. This is a lesson that most people learn when they're about 22, 23. When you get your first job after uni or whatever, and, I'll count myself in this group of people, right? You go into an office job or whatever, and you make a mistake, and somebody says, does anybody know what happened with this order? And then you go, no, I don't know anything about that. Like that. And then you might...
Oh, really? Because it was you that did it.
Yeah, you might get away with it like once or twice, but eventually it's going to come back and kick you in the arse, right? And that is a lesson that normal people learn in their 20s, in their first couple of jobs. So my question is, like, why hasn't a 56-year-old prime minister learned that lesson yet? And the answer to that is because he's never had to take any responsibility for a fucking thing in his entire life. Like, he's...
Well, no, because you get sacked from one job and then just goes, this one then.
Yeah. Somebody described it today in the comments as failing upward, which is a perfect description. He gets fired, then miraculously he's hired somewhere else for more money.
Yeah.
Like, I thought earlier, like, what's a good metaphor? What's a good sort of simile type thing to describe Boris Johnson facing his responsibilities? And the best thing I could come up with was he's like a deer running onto the M25. Like, responsibility.
Headlights.
Yeah, responsibilities coming at him. He's just like dodging, And
well, the M25 is probably the most apt one because the responsibilities are just standing there and he just walks past them.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the frustration with a lot of this is, here is this prime minister in number 10 in his office, obsessed with newspaper coverage, obsessed with headlines. How are they going to treat me? What if they find out if I'm shit? What if they find out that we're actually just a group of fuck-ups and we don't know what the fuck we're doing? And yet, have you ever known another culture of client journalism quite as, like, kid gloves as this? Yeah.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
It's like, what is he so afraid of when they treat him so... Like, he could have literally left number 10 and said, changed my mind on herd immunity and also go fuck yourself. And they probably would have sucked his dick. Like, he would have been fine.
Yeah. Boris Johnson makes brave decision in changing his mind. Didn't he say go fuck yourself as well? Oh, I didn't hear that. No.
Yeah, right.
But was it just me, or with the herd immunity thing? for us just living our lives, it was like normal, normal, normal. Okay, pubs are shut.
Yeah.
So everyone just went out onto a field for the weekend,
Yeah.
and then Monday, okay, lockdown.
I don't remember because I've got a young family. So for me, lockdown is almost irrelevant. I never leave the fucking house anyway. Like, there was a pandemic? Really? Um, but yeah, I think, like, didn't did they give us notice when they locked down? I can't remember.
No, not really. There was about maybe 3 hours notice because
Oh
he
yeah.
did it at something like eight or 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. And I remember seeing the footage of the trains that were packed because people were just suddenly jumping on these trains trying to get back up north or, back out to the West
So you've got
Country.
these massively packed trains because he's got everyone to panic.
Yeah.
And there was the don't go to work unless you have to go to work. So the next day the tubes are still full because everyone went, oh, I still have to go to work.
Yeah.
Owners of businesses didn't know whether they needed to be open because they still thought they had to work. It was
Yeah. It's fucking crazy, isn't it? It's like, I mean, I look at situations like that, and that's just one of what, like 20 or 30 fuck ups that have happened in this pandemic.
I think you've been generous.
Yeah, right. Maybe I am. I don't know, but I look at that sort of shit, and I think, here's this prime minister who's so shit scared of negative tabloid coverage, and what was the output of making poor decisions like that is nothing. Like
Mm.
the worst that he can expect is that they ignore it. They don't really acknowledge something bad that he did, and then usually there's some fucking like bump in the polls. Like he'll do something catastrophic, kill stadiums worth of people, and then it's like, and the Tory lead has increased by 4 points. You're like, motherfucker, these people really love dying, don't they? It's
The stadium thing is something I try and use actually to try and get people to visualize just the sheer numbers we're talking about. Like this is like Wembley and a half and then some.
yeah,
If all if you filled Wembley and just shot everyone,
yeah,
you'd think that was the biggest tragedy ever.
yeah,
But because it's happened over the space of 12 months, he's doing his best.
yeah. It's fucking. It's. I think it's like this sort of collective not wanting to face reality. Like people are so sick and tired of the pandemic that any further dwelling on the reality of it, like the dark, depressing reality of that number of people have died, is just a bummer that they don't need. They're like, oh, I don't want to think about that, And also, if I'm honest, I think a lot of people think quite selfishly, just as a like not because they're necessarily really mean people. I think it's just like a natural setting that people go, well, I think a lot of them were about 88, and yeah, I think there's a lot of that mentality to it, where they're like,
Yeah.
they were allowed to die by incompetence and lying at the top of the Ministry of Health. But I think a lot of people just look at it like, yeah, but I mean, how old were those people? Like, I could totally see people saying that kind of
Oh
shit.
yeah. Because that's what was told to them in the first place. It was, oh, most of the people that are dying are in the 80 plus age bracket.
Mm,
And you just go, oh, 80 plus, fine, that's nowhere near me.
yeah,
But that's still someone's brother, someone's sister, someone's mum, someone's dad.
yeah,
Very unlikely it's someone's son or daughter.
yeah. Less so.
But
Yeah,
but that's what they were made to think like that. It was like, oh, that they're old, so that death is sort of like a half death that doesn't really count.
yeah. I think you're right. I think it's there's like people say every life is precious, but situations like this show you that some lives are more precious than others, politically speaking.
It's very Animal Farm, isn't it, in that
Mm,
respect?
yeah,
All of us are equal, but some are more equal than others.
yeah. Do you know what else was interesting with the testimony stuff was if you look at Cummings as a sort of uh, that Machiavellian kind of evil genius. Here's a
Mm.
guy who led the
Sure.
Vote Leave campaign, which was, will go down in history as one of the great political lies in terms of that 350 million on a
It,
bus, right?
it was just the biggest con.
Yeah. And the Turkish, Turkey's going to join and blah, blah, blah. And like all the scare stories and the disingenuousness and the cynical campaigning. Here's this guy who's behind all of that and putting Johnson into number 10 with shit like get Brexit done when we all know it was never going to be done. And like what happened with like the oven ready deal, like it turned out
oven ready, stick it in the microwave. Is it oven ready or microwave ready, John?
right.
Come on.
So here's this guy with this track record of being a fucking bullshitter, and now he's sat in this committee saying, "I am here to speak my truth." Like it's kind of tragic, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
like at what, like it's a real boy who cried wolf is a very simplistic way of looking at it. Like, why the fuck should? I mean, I do believe a lot of what he's saying. I don't know if I believe 100% of it, but I believe that it's, hugely incompetent and chaotic in number 10.
It really is boy that cried wolf. Like, oh no, the EU's the big bad wolf. Well, no, it's really fucking not. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn's the big bad wolf. Well, he might be to some people, yeah, but ultimately, no, he's not. Well, Johnson's the big bad wolf, and then I've seen a lot of people just don't believe him.
Yeah, it's a testament really to the pulling power and the weird. It's similar to Trump, like where Trump has got such a hold over the Republicans in the States that somebody quoted a figure to me the other day, and I don't know how true this is, but they said about 53% of Republicans truly believe that Donald Trump is still president.
Yeah.
I'm like, are they? I have to be careful of my language now. Apparently, I've been told off for saying certain words. Are they moronic? Can I say moronic?
I think so.
It's like, how can you, like, something as clear to me as, they tried to do voter intimidation. They tried to keep people away from the polls. And so they made it harder for mail-in ballots. And so the Democrats typically would do mailed-in ballots. But that was exaggerated in this last election because of the demonization of mailed-in votes. And so then when they they counted all of the like in-person votes first, and it looked like Trump was in the lead, and then they counted all the mail ballots.
And then let's do the mail-in, and it's like,
yeah.
what?
And all these like congressmen and senators and stuff are just like, oh well, I don't understand, like how 1 minute we're in the lead, and then all of a sudden these like, yeah, because they're fucking mail-in ballots, dummy, you fucking idiot. How? Like,
because you told one side not to do it while the other side went, yeah, we're still going to fucking do that.
And the worst thing about this is like, and I can totally see this happening here with like GB News and whatever else, like whatever other god awful super right wing stations pop up. But what they do in America in American news is they don't just let it be refuted. They don't like let it die when it's disproven. So like when a manufacturer of a vote count machine sues Giuliani and says, you said that our machines don't count properly, so we're going to sue you. And like that is a strong stance to take. And I would say it signifies that at least this is unresolved. Like you can't just say that it was voter fraud or that Trump is still, but still like what they do is they then go on to the news and they go like, and following the accusations of voter fraud, like they acknowledge the fact that there was some that there was some like credence to it,
Yeah, there was one beautiful thing that happened during the counting of the votes, and there was I was going to say a constituency. They don't call it constituencies, but there's one area where Trump was ahead, and people are going, stop the count, stop the count, and then where he's behind, and they're still counting. Keep on counting. Keep on. It's like, which one do you want them to do?
Yeah.
Like you either think that the counts need to carry on until every vote is counted, or you believe that the mail-in ballots are void.
Yeah. But I mean, you're trying to wrap logic around something that's fundamentally illogical. Like they're not interested in logic or making sense. What they are is religiously tied to this Messiah type figure. Like he has such a hold on. Like they had a fucking gold statue of him at the Republican convention. Like when you walk into the Republican convention, there's a gold Trump. smiling at you. You're
And
like,
then Boris Johnson had a strange inflatable at Hartlepool.
yeah. It's sort of like, are you familiar with the expression like the shit British version? Like when
Yeah,
America does something and then, you know, we're like, yeah, we can do it too. It's like,
we did it with the Prime Minister,
yes,
and then again with an effigy of him.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples, but yeah, Johnson is. I mean, I think he's been called like a pound shop Trump, hasn't he? By like Alistair
Oh,
Campbell.
I'm sure multiple times.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, it's fucking nuts over there. I hope it doesn't get that bad over here. But I suppose the point I was going to make there was that it's the fact that the evil genius who they were all rooting for and they were all protecting and putting their careers and their credibility on the line to protect, the fact that he's gone and they're still protecting Johnson and Hancock suggests that Johnson, I think, has quite a tight hold on the Tories.
You've also got the MPs that were still sticking up for Cummings
Mm,
after the Barnard Castle thing,
yeah,
and he's just gone, no, fuck you, and fuck you too.
yeah, yeah. That's the funny thing, isn't it? Because it's
And Matt Hancock, bend over and fuck you 300 times.
yeah, he really doesn't like Hancock. What do you think Hancock did to him? I mean, I'd like to say, oh, it's because he lied and because he caused a lot of death, but I don't think people like coming. I think there's something personal there. I think,
My understanding is that Cummings wanted to lock down. He wanted a proper lockdown. He wanted just like closed borders, everyone in their homes,
mm,
then get tests out sort of regularly. And Hancock kept on interfering because it was his place.
yeah,
And every time he interfered, he fucked it up.
right, I see.
Um, if I'm understanding it correctly, Hancock had this thing about the 100,000 tests a day.
Oh yeah, he did say something about that, didn't
Um, and it was something like he'd put off getting people tested earlier
he? Yeah,
so he could get build up to that. We will hit 100,000 tests by April 21st or whatever it might have been.
yeah,
So people could have been tested earlier, and he didn't want to do that because he wanted to reach his target number
yeah.
to make it palatable,
This
I
is the thing.
guess.
Like again, it goes back to sort of press pressure, like tabloid
Mm.
pressure on government. And this is a theme I come back to a lot in my vids that I do in the week. But it's like how much more efficient would government be if they didn't have this sort of reactionary, you know, not proactive way of governing? If someone like Matt Hancock in that position had just said, okay, well, look, obviously testing is the route to getting this under control, but you know, we can only test as many test kits as we've got, and you know, like if there wasn't this big sexy like figure that they had, like we're gonna hit 100,000 a day, like, and the reason that he's saying that is because you know he's had meetings with newspaper editors and journalists who are just like, well, you know, I think what we want to see is, you know, you need to get to 100,000. That's what the scientists are telling us, and like, what if there wasn't that pressure? Then him and Cummings would never have rubbed each other up the wrong way, and you know,
Possibly. It always just seems like we need to do the really popular thing rather than just give it straight.
yeah,
The 100,000 tests, just say, look, we can hit 20,000 tests a day every day for the foreseeable, and we're going to work to making that more. But right now, this is what we've got, and this is what we're working with.
yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Like for all their desires, and all these people come up with sort of like the private school and Oxbridge route, and then they get into power, and they love being the person in a nice suit in power, but actual leadership they seem to fail spectacularly on. So I would look to like a strong leader, you know, a prime minister or a health secretary or, you know, chief advisor to take a tough decision and not really care about what the public wants or what the public would be salivating over on a headline. You know, I want the leader to stand there and give me the uncomfortable truth and just be like, look, we're not going to have enough tests a day to get this under control. So here's what we're going to have to do is lock down super tight until we do get the capacity up. And even then, it's, you know, X, Y, like give me the options and give me the background and the context to it.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of them have the mental toolkit to lead in that way. I think they all just like wearing nice suits and getting a paycheck
And I want people to like me.
yeah. Well, I don't even think they care too much about that. I think they're in a cabinet role
Well,
for like 2 to 5 years,
yeah.
and then they fuck off and get a nice board, like a cushy board role at like Goldman's or something.
In as much as they want people to like them, in as long as they keep their popularity up, there's no chance of them falling away in disgrace.
No.
Whether they actually value, say, your my opinion, of course they don't. But as long as their popularity rating is high enough,
Yeah,
that's what they want.
I guess. But so just going back to like what we were talking before about Cummings being this sort of this architect of untruth in politics. So since 2015, 2016, I think it's fair to say that the West has become more polarized, more divided, more binary politically. Do you think there's much hope for the future? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic? Do you think things could be repaired and we can go back to the slightly nicer days of, like, you know, a measured Tory leader like a John Major
or just blue Labour
or like some sort of progressive alliance? Like, am I dreaming by thinking maybe we could do that? Do you think that'll happen?
Are you thinking the same thing that I want to happen, and it's just the left stop fighting between themselves and unite to take down a common enemy?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I strongly believe that is the only way of taking the Tories out of power, because on the right wing, you have conservatives, and a lot of conservatives. And who's their opponents? Like Refuck UK or whatever they want to be called.
Yeah.
Reform UK.
Yeah.
They've got them and the British Democrats.
Oh, really?
Like, well, they're ultra right wing, aren't they?
I've not even heard of them before.
Oh, okay.
I like that they've got the name British in there, though, so you know it's, you know,
British Democrats. I've got a little story. So my wife and I just moved to a new area just before the council elections, and she went and voted in person for the first time, because she'd normally do mail-in ballot. So she had no one there to talk to her about, okay,
yeah,
this is who they are, this is who they are. And she went, okay, Labour, not voting Conservative. Oh, it wasn't council, it was the police commissioner. Not voting Conservative, not voting Lib Dem. So I've got another vote. Who's the other one? British Democrats. Okay, Democrats, that sounds good.
Yeah.
She told me when she got home, she went, so I voted for Labour and the British Democrats. I went, what were your options? Conservatives, Lib Dems, or British Democrats? I went, right, you should have just not used your second vote. She went, oh, fuck, what have I done? And they're like super right-wing Nazis. Oh shit! See, this is why I need to do mail-in ballots, so you can tell me who I should vote, so I don't do this again.
Yeah, I mean, I could have made a similar mistake, I guess, with that sort of stuff. I've never heard of them. I would assume, like your wife, like that British Democrats would be a sort of slightly nationalistic Lib Dems, maybe, just based on those.
But democracy, that's a good thing.
Yeah, but then I don't know. People say, like, you know, whenever you see a country called like the Democratic Republic of blah blah, you're always a bit like, really?
Might be a dictatorship though, mightn't it?
Yeah, it's like seeing a restaurant called like Legally Fried Chicken. You'd be like, why do you feel the need to say that?
Why do you need to stress that?
Yeah.
Isn't North Korea a democratic republic?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly. It's branded that way, but
Well, they all get a vote, and but they've only got one option.
Yeah. Do you vote for this fat chubby dictator, or do you vote to have your fucking head? Like, didn't he got his uncle, like a missile fired into his uncle? Something really like over the top. Something that sounds like a Hollywood movie taking the piss out of like what he
Yeah.
would do. But it's like like I read it in the fucking Metro, man. It was just like intelligence services have reported that they
Well,
strongly suspect that Kim Jong Un.
if you read it in the Metro, I'd still take it with a pinch of salt.
I don't know, man. The Metro's like, I mean, like, look, I'm sure the showbiz pages, and I'm sure like the letters pages, and whatever else is a little bit, tabloidy. But I think like the news pages are all right, aren't they?
I don't know. The last time I read the Metro, I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Really?
Yeah, it weren't great. But then we're talking about 3 or 4 years ago. It might have changed.
Yeah. I mean, I must confess.
They might have got the scoop on the
Yeah.
on the missile to the uncle.
Yeah. Do you
The
think?
last time I remember hearing about him, it was when he was on his white horse going through the snow,
Oh, really?
looking majestic as fuck. Like if you search him on a horse,
Yeah.
you just get this image of him like that. Like Putin's image on a horse kind of looks like a sad dad
Yeah.
on a horse, but Kim looks like he's got his shit together.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to fuck with him. Like, I know Dennis Rodman flew over there, didn't he? And like they hung out for a bit. But I mean, Rodman's a brave man, because I would be just constantly shitting it that I was just going to say the wrong thing, and then it would be like a humiliate. Like that, I think that's my greatest fear is dying in a stupid way. Like I don't ever want to be the guy who's like, I'm just going about my day. I'm looking forward to doing a podcast tonight, and maybe we'll go away on holiday later in the year. I'm thinking about my life, and then I die because a fucking chimney falls on me, or like, just a random ad hoc death where all of my friends go like, fucking hell, that's a bit shit, but then like that's how my death is always, and I've got no recourse. There's no like.
At least you have that rather than he died of diabetes and people just go, well, yeah, of course he fucking did. Do you see him?
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't know. I think a slightly out there death would bring some comfort to me, actually.
Do you think? You mean my death?
If
Death being out there would be. You're like, actually, I quite enjoy it.
If I died because I took a missile to the chest,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a way to go. At least I didn't just go peacefully away in my sleep. Everybody does that. Boring.
Yeah, I suppose. You want to find a sort of hipstery death. Like I died like that before. It was the cool way to die, Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to touch on
Yes.
tonight was the Indian variant, or the variant first discovered in India. This is something that's sort of crescendoed throughout the week, and I confess to at the beginning of the week I was thinking, well, like, what's the big fucking deal? Like, isn't basically everyone vaccinated at this point? Like, why is everyone shitting it over this? I thought we were sort of through the woods now, but it really seems like there's a lot of fear out there that this is going to lead to another lockdown.
Well, apparently we can't have a lockdown because Boris Johnson irreversibly drunk a pint.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how you reversibly drink a pint, but
Yeah, you're right. Actually, like there was a real flip on that, wasn't there? Like when they said this is the irreversible easing of restrictions, and everyone was like, "Oh, thank fuck. Okay, cool. Right, we're out of the woods. They say it's irreversible. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the pub. Should we book a holiday later in the year? Awesome. Yeah." So everyone's looking at it like irreversible, and then next thing you know, Hancock and fucking Kwasi, I can't remember his surname.
Kwasi Kwarteng.
Yes, yeah. We're on like the news rounds saying like, well, look, no final decision has been taken yet on whether we can fully relax. I'm like, no final decision on the irreversible
21st of June.
lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah, date are not dates though, right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's why you've given us dates the whole fucking way.
Yeah.
But isn't the Indian variant the real reason that's here is because India was never put on the red list, even though Pakistan and Bangladesh
Yeah.
were when they didn't. have the Indian variant,
Yeah.
but because we had an ongoing talks about a trade deal with India.
Yeah. Yes.
So
That's exactly what happened. I think it was in April. I was following Ian Dunt on Twitter yesterday, and he was like,
yeah, he's
"Remember the
very
timeline. Like, keep your eye on the timeline. Like, here's what happened." And I won't remember the exact dates now, but it was something along the lines of this date. The variant is reported. 2 weeks later, Bangladesh and Pakistan are on the red list, but it's not announced until, like, it's not confirmed. It's not actually actioned until
yeah.
like 10 days after that, and then basically it works out as
So,
one
so get
month.
your panic flights in.
Yeah, it's like 1 month after it should have been immediately put on the red list, and after like 20,000 people or something ridiculous had flown in from
Yeah,
that region, finally we sort of shut the
and
borders,
then
but didn't really.
and then it's oh no, we've got the Indian variant in Blackburn. Like,
Yeah.
well yeah. What did you think, what did you think was going to happen when you let 20,000 people come over from India where they've got an Indian variant that's tearing the country apart?
Yeah. But then, I mean, this is exactly what happens when you've got somebody like Johnson in power who's never had to take responsibility for anything. It's like I was saying earlier, like, he doesn't really feel any urgency or responsibility for taking the quick, sharp, sensible decision. Um, so he doesn't, and so now we are where we are again. And they'll probably, maybe there'll be a fifth lockdown. I don't know, like, but it seems like there's a real pattern here of every sort of 3 months, 3 to 6 months, they say, okay, we're going to ease the restrictions, and then they do, and then something flares up, and then it's the choice between, do we lock down or. And like, I was working out some of the figures earlier. I was thinking, like, why is everyone so scared about this? And yeah, like, this is just sort of back of a fag packet figures, like, in my mind, but for about 40 million people have been vaccinated with 2 jabs, I think.
One jab, I think it's around 20 million have had
Oh,
both.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. In that case, it's way worse then. Maybe that's why they're so worried about it. But
But because it's the way they bill it. They bill it as, oh, 60 million people have been vaccinated. And you think, oh, brilliant.
yeah,
But then they go, so that's 40 million have had the first and 20 million have had their second.
yeah,
Right. Well, 20 million have had their second. They're in that 40 million that have had their first.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you look at it like
It's
it's 20
it's the
million.
fucking it's the getting the new nurses all over again.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you can't have new nurses just by keeping your current nurses. You can't have extra vaccinations on the same
well,
person.
careful now, because what they'll do is they'll say, we're building 40 new nurses. And it turn out it's fucking great. Yeah. So you already had these 40 nurses, but you just gave them like a new little watch thing. That's what you
Yeah.
did. Yeah. So,
Oh,
okay.
we're building a new hospital. What, you mean that one right behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that we're going to build.
Yeah. Well, you've done a bang up job because it's already there. Great job,
Yeah, you
Hancock.
did that 50 years ago somehow.
Yeah. We're so good at this. We're so optimized and efficient that we're building a new hospital that we actually already built 40 years ahead of time. That's how good we are. Yeah.
But yeah, so the vaccination figures I don't think are quite representative of the truth.
Yeah.
That's the I might be completely wrong. It might be that the 20 million people aren't included in those that have had the first,
Yeah.
but I think they are.
Well, I worked it out as, like, if I was working on 40 million, but let's say it's 20 million that are fully vaccinated. I was thinking, okay, 20 million, and let's say it's an efficacy of 90%, so 10% of those will be vulnerable. So 20 million, that's 2 million, right? So 2 million people could still get COVID, and it's 5% get it very, very seriously. But I don't know if it's 5% across all age groups, or if it's 5%, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure how that actually would work with the people who have been vaccinated versus the people who haven't. But let's say that it is 5%. Then, so 10% of 2 million is 200,000, and half of that be 100,000. So 100,000 people are going to get seriously ill and end up in hospital. But again, I don't know what time, like if it would spread out. Is it 100,000 people all at once are going to end up in ICUs? In which case, kaboom. But if it's...
And would it be 100,000 people that are all 65 and over?
Yeah.
Or would it be spread across the age range? Because over 30s and overs have only just started being offered the first vaccination, and then that will skew the numbers again with who is more susceptible to getting the virus, because younger people apparently don't get it as much. So so you'd assume that the vaccination would work even better the younger you are when you're given it.
I think that's true. I'm not a doctor, but I think that the vaccine is more effective in younger people than it is in older people. But don't quote me on that, because I might just be talking out my ass there.
Don't quote me either, because I'm a fucking idiot.
So, and another area I wanted to touch on just before we wrap up, because we've only got 10 minutes. These episodes fly by, man.
I do.
Was your background? So, I mean, look, we're talking about the pandemic a lot, and we're talking about governmental fuckery. But you were working in like airport security, right? Like at the beginning of the pandemic. So maybe like, could you tell us a little bit about that? What was that like? Must have been fucking nuts.
So, yeah, airport security is a shit show at the best of times. You see the very, very worst of people.
Right.
You see them at their rudest, at their dirtiest, at their drunkest.
What, like just regular people sort of coming through, they're on their way to a stag weekend somewhere, they don't want to be stopped. You're sort of suspicious, maybe.
Or you've got the people that are going home.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do just see everyone at their worst. Middle-aged English people are the worst.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. Middle-aged white English people.
Those fucking boomers, Billy.
Yeah. Because why should they be searched? They're not a terrorist.
Yeah.
Because there's never been any white terrorists, is there?
I think statistically, aren't more terrorists white than brown?
Probably. Yeah. So it's a shit show at the best of times, and you how do you social distance in a job like that when you have to have your thumbs in someone's, well, not their underwear, but like in their waist? Like
I thought you were going to say something way filthier there.
When you got their thumbs like right up there.
Yeah. Is that like? Just be honest. Is that was that part of your job?
No. That maybe if you're coming into a country, someone might try. Just a random person will just try and finger your bum.
Yeah.
You might get it in customs if someone really suspects you of trying to smuggle drugs in, but on the way out,
if you did have a thing for fingering people's bums, probably an airport security area is a great pickup zone, because you could just tap somebody on the shoulder and go like, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind coming this way?" And then you could lead them into a room, give them a sort of pat down, literally finger their bum hole, and they'd probably just go along with it, because they'd be like, "Well, yeah, this is what happens here." Like, I obviously look suspicious.
You would have to be attracted to the same sex for that to happen, because you don't search the opposite sex.
I like that you're homing in on the well, you'd have to be gay, like, rather than that's really unacceptable. Why the fuck did that pop in your head, Aid? You weirdo. I like this.
Hey,
you make me feel much more comfortable.
I worked there for 6 years. We had all the thoughts.
Yeah, so carry on. So bit of a rude zone. People treating you badly, not being respectful. They just want to be on their way. They're tired, aggy.
Or they've left it way too late, which happens far, far too often. They get to you and just say, I'm late for my flight, and we'll scan their ticket. Go, yeah, you're very late. You've missed it. Like, well, can you make it stop? Like, how can we make it stop? It's gone. It's in the air.
Yeah.
We can't get it back. You're really late.
The fucking entitlement of people. Do you remember there was a news story,
Oh,
or maybe it was on Have I Got News for You? It was quoted. Like there was some sort of quotey story. It was around like after 9/11, and all the like planes were grounded or cancelled or something, and the announcer says, "Yeah, all flight like the flight is cancelled from New York to London or whatever," and then this woman like waves a ticket and she's like, "Does that include first class?" You're just like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like everyone's grounded, everyone's having a bad day,
yeah.
and you're just like, look, I'm first class. Can you still fly the plane for me?
Well, I'm better than the scum, honestly.
Yeah.
Look at me. I have a Gucci bag.
Yeah. I'll give you an.
Look at them wearing Sports Direct.
Yeah, I'll give you my Gucci bag if you can just take me home. To be fair, like, I mean, you know, touch wood, I've never had a really bad like airport experience, but if I was really tired and like hungover at the end of a, you know, stag weekend, like I might be that desperate. Like, although it's difficult to imagine if I'm well, especially if I'd bothered to pay out for first class, right? Because first class is so much more expensive. It's not like sort of, you know, the normal flight is 500, and then first class is like, you know, 1100. It's like normal flight's 500, first class £3,000 or so. It's like so out there crazy.
If you're flying first class, you need to be in that seat for a long time.
Yeah.
Like if I'm flying first class, I want to be stuck on the runway. I'm getting as much of this as I can.
Yeah, for sure. I want to be treated like royalty, but, massaged. I want to have like the flight attendants whisper ASMR stuff in my ear.
Oh no, I can deal with that. ASMR makes me really uncomfortable.
Really? What if it's what if it's like encourage, like it's not just sort of, you know, sounds of people eating or like all that weird shit. It's like I'm like saying to my girlfriend, I'm like, can you do like ASMR but just like whisper stuff about like how your friends' husbands don't make as much money as me, or like like really just like ego strokey like stuff. You know? Tell me I look good in a suit, but in ASMR.
No, it makes me genuinely really uncomfortable. I don't know what it is about it, but I get that horrible feeling down my spine.
Really?
Yeah.
You might want to look into that. Has somebody like whispered stuff in your ear uncomfortably when you were a child? Or
oh, great. Oh no. Oh no.
that would be a hell of a dark story to leave it on. Mind you, last week's episode, the last thing was talking about a fucking dead cat. So
that was brilliant. Just the last line. Well, she is a dead cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Working there in a pandemic, just I couldn't deal with it. Being about this far away from someone else's mouth as they cough directly into your mouth. It's one of the most disgusting things. So I'm glad I'm not there now during the pandemic, because
did you have people like because obviously airports are a hotspot because they're indoors and there's lots of people passing through and they're all coming from different countries and so on, but I would like to think that people would be very, very vigilant, especially in the early days of the pandemic, with, you know, masks, keeping their distance from each other. But is it just that the pictures and videos that we see on the news of like, oh, fucking hell, look at Terminal 5, nobody gives a fuck, like everyone's like smushed into, is it that they don't give a fuck?
No one
or is it that airports are just, that's just how they are, there's no getting away from
it? Airports are horrible. They pack you in as much as they can, and it's always recycled air. People get sick all the time. And then you are just dealing with truly disgusting people that haven't washed their feet in about 3 years. Oh yeah.
Who's the worst person you've ever had to deal with?
Worst person I've ever had to deal with was, I didn't even have to deal with them. I was a good 75 meters away, and I could smell their
Really?
feet.
That bad?
Oh, it was horrendous because we have to take your shoes off if we're going to search you, and I really wish we could have kept them on. I he left those sort of like foot-shaped sweat marks as he walked through without his shoes on, and we're saying, please put your shoes back
Yeah.
on, please put them back on. It's Yeah, I think he melted away some of the
Yeah.
floor.
Like as soon as you started saying that, I was thinking, I mean, not to mock, but there used to be a homeless chap in my hometown who would have like he didn't have shoes, he just had cardboard like sellotaped around his feet,
Mhm.
and I imagined like that's the sort of feet. Is that the level of
I,
feet we're
I,
talking?
I'd imagine that was better.
Gross, fucking gross.
The the uh, the worst thing about it is someone had to sit next to him then for about four
Yeah,
hours.
it's amazing, isn't it? Like you think most people should have a sort of base level of shame, you know, like of
Oh
self-awareness, where
yeah,
you're just like, hang on, I think I might be like, for me it's like earlier I had a shower just before we started doing this, and I didn't have a chance to put deodorant on because the spray of the deodorant, I was worried it was going to wake up the baby, like startle the baby, so I didn't put it
right.
on. And even though there's no one in this cabin with me, I'm still conscious of the fact, I'm like, have I started to stink yet? Like I'm, you know, and I assume I give people some credit, all right? There's some expectation from me that other people also have this, you know, that they would think,
N- n-
I better, oh fuck, I forgot my my deodorant today, and I've got to sit next to Sarah at work all day. Oh, I better nip out and then get some deodorant, otherwise she's going to smell me, and oh, it'd be really, you know, like there would be the shame, it should kick in, but that does not exist for everyone.
no, there is a shocking amount of people whose level of hygiene is worse than a wild
Yeah,
animal. Well, like much worse because a lot of wild animals are quite clean, but they've got no shame
mm,
at all. You'd They'd come through and you'd say you need to search them, and they'll just lift their top right
yeah,
up. Like, I don't know what you think you're doing. You're just flashing me your nipples. Cheers.
yeah. Especially like in an airport as well. Like I'll forgive you if you know, let's say tonight you have 5 Stellas or whatever, and then tomorrow you wake up with a thick head and you're like, oh fuck, I'm gonna just gonna nip down the Costco or whatever, and you know, I don't know why I said Costco. I'm thinking of like Co-op, right? Don't want to go to.
just gonna nip, just gonna nip down to Costco and buy some shit in bulk.
Yeah. Don't know why you'd nip to the wholesalers on like with a hangover. That sounds horrible. But
How much Benadryl did Benadryl? That's the wrong one. Fuck me, I'm
yeah,
hungover.
um, oh shit, have I lost
Barocca was what I was thinking of.
Barocca? Barocca will do. Wait, I've lost my my camera. Have I gone dark on you?
No, but you are
Oh no,
frozen. I thought that was just
no, hold on.
I thought that was
Let me
my
see if I
end.
can repair it. Technical issues.
It was quite a good looking still. It was just
Right, hold on. Let's try this again.
oh that's terrifying.
Oh, it's flipped to the other one. I'll just.
It looked like it looked like you had a kabuki
There we
mask.
go. I'm
There we
back.
go.
Technical problems. This is what you get when you watch um a very budget, non-professional punk rock production uh in a studio that has not been bought by Amazon this week. Um,
It's what gives it ah it's what gives it its charm. That shouldn't have been hard to say, and it was.
yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes I talk to my girlfriend about this, like because we were talking about getting a like garden office or something like out in the back there, and
Mm. Is that not what you're
no,
in?
well, I'm in a log cabin sort of thing, and I've done some insulation work, but very shitly. Um,
So, oh, we have the log cabin in the garden, but a garden office as well. I think we're gonna essentially have a small
yeah,
city
I'm doing nothing,
in our backyard.
doing nothing to dismiss the rumors that I'm some sort of champagne socialist, am I? You know, I want to help the little people, but I also want my garden office first. Um,
Well, I don't have a garden, but I do have two bathrooms, which is a strange ratio.
Fucking hell. Ooh.
I know.
Billy Two Box.
That's what they
Yeah.
call me.
But yeah, like, so I was thinking, like, yeah, and then I could do like the podcast in the garden office thing down the bottom. And then I was thinking, but I really fucking like it in here. Like, it's sort of, it's shacky and it's a bit punk rock, and like, you can't see it, but I've got this collage thing of a load of graffiti up here in front of me, and I think I'd miss it. I think it'd be like, I also think, here's my biggest fear is, if we had a garden office, my girlfriend would want to work in it also, because she hasn't got anywhere to do anything at the moment. And then I'd have to keep it tidy, and it wouldn't. It could.
You'd
It
have
could never be shacky and punk rocky. It would be like,
you'd have a John left of the countryside situation where he had all that random
right,
furniture.
yeah. It wouldn't be my studio. It would be like our office, and it has to, like, if, again, you can't see it here, but this is fucking chaos. I've got like props here. I've got wigs. I've got beer cans and like letters I opened about 3 months ago and then just left here. Like, I couldn't do that in a shed office.
These are strange. These are strange brags. I have wigs, beer cans, and
Yeah.
letters.
I mean, I'm not bragging. I've got a few wigs,
If I could bring it back from your metropolis of a
Yeah.
garden, to, if I could say one story from the airport that I found quite amusing. It's pre-pandemic times, but there's, when you come back from another country and you go through customs, you get your bag, and then there's that last door that you go through, no way back. That's manned by a security officer. And one guy came out and he said, "I'm just going to get a sandwich and then I'll be back for the rest of my group." No, you won't. What do you mean, no, I won't? Well, that was a secure area. You've just left the secure area. You can't get back in there. Well, you can let me back in. I went, no, I can't. I can't get back in there. It is properly secure. Well, how can I get back in there? I went, short of taking a flight somewhere else and then back here, you can't. I went, well, that's ridiculous. I went, well, no, most people understand the no entry sign and this is the exit sort of prospect. But I left a group of elderly old women in there. Went, okay, well, I'm sure they're going to come back out at some point. They're going to realise that you're not there. Well, no, they won't, because I told them to wait there. Well, you shouldn't have done that, should you? And he goes off in a huff, and he comes back and, seriously, can you let me in? Went, no, like, genuinely, even if I wanted to, which I don't, because being a dick. I couldn't let you in. But they're waiting for me. I mean, honestly, there is only one way out. The same way you went. They will eventually. They'll speak to someone and say, "Where's the way out?" And they'll come out.
Yeah, or like, I mean, they're old ladies, but are they old ladies without phones? Surely old ladies have phones too.
Well, I that's actually something I asked. I went, "Can you not ring them?" And he went, "No, they don't have phones." So no, they were back in the early 1990s.
Shit. But then let's try and leave this on a happy note.
Well. What
they didn't die.
What he then said was,
"Please don't tell me this is another dead cat story."
There was just about 4 dead old women just going around the carousel.
This is even worse than last week's story.
No, he said to me, "Well, they make jokes about this airport, and now I can see why." I went, "Why? Because you left old ladies in a baggage hall. That's why they make jokes about us." Off you go, mate.
Jog on. The fucking the need to apportion blame to people for your own fuck up is really quite a skill, isn't it? It's like,
it is fascinating. Right. Someone's 2 hours late for their flight, and because I searched them, I'm the one that made them late. Like, I searched you for like 30 seconds, and now you're off. But you got here about 3 minutes before your gate closed.
Yeah, I remember when I was living in, I think I was living in Tooting Broadway in London, and I was down in, I don't know why that's relevant, but I was down in like Acton, catching a train somewhere, and on the other side of the platform, this woman was obviously in a hurry to a wedding, and the trains at this platform were only like every 15 or 20 minutes or something, and so clearly she was in a hurry and this was her train. Anyway, she runs down the steps, and as she's getting near to the bottom of the steps, and then like the doors shut, and she runs up to the train and she just goes like, no, 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 and then like the train just moves off, and like all I heard was this woman just go like, oh, I could just shoot myself in the fucking head, like that. She was so angry, and it was such a specific thing to say as well. Like most people would just go like, oh shit, like, but she, like, for her it was a shoot me in the head thing, and like,
Wasn't being listened to one night, and she went, right, guess I'll just slit my throat.
yeah, so over the top, but I love it.
You've got to have that in there ready to go.
It reminds me a bit of this is slightly different, but in the same vein, in the same lane of like people that say shit that it just shuts the shit down. Like I've got this friend Jeremy from my hometown Maidenhead, and like everyone was joking and laughing in this party, or like I wasn't there, but I've seen the video footage of it, and like everyone's joking and laughing, and you know that it's like the like noughties or late 90s, and they're bouncing jokes off each other, and then he just tried, like in his mind this line was hilarious and it was the next logical joke to crack, so whatever the context was, he comes out with this. He just goes, yeah, so split your pussy, like that, and just silence. Just like, you know when people look scared at how shit the like, it's just crickets, and then people going like, huh? What did you say? And like there's just video footage of him just like leaving the like, okay, yeah, bye.
To have video footage of such a tumbleweed moment, that is beautiful.
I have a sort of a firm belief that in order to go into stand-up comedy, or open mic comedy at least, you have to have had a few of those moments yourself. Like,
oh yeah, because you just go, yeah.
Like you have to have built up the armor of, I mean, here we are talking about like, how could people be so shameless? But you have to have built up the armor where you no longer feel shame if you say something that wasn't funny. Like you just have to be like, oh, that didn't fucking work, did it?
As long as you can go, that just wasn't funny, rather than that was really fucking offensive.
Yeah.
Then you still come out of it like, okay, you just quieten down now.
Yeah, right.
But that split your pussy. Well, I don't know how you keep on bringing these memories back into my mind. A factory I used to work in, we found a field mouse, and a couple of girls got it in like a box, and they were taking it out, and someone went, touch it, someone went, lick it, and then the next logical one from lick it was fuck it till it splits.
It's so like, what is it with like some people just don't have the threshold there. Like most people have a limiter, like you have in an engine, you have a limiter, you don't go above it. It's just there, it's ingrained.
Yeah.
And
if you try, it will just bring you.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I'll serve you one more of these stories, and then we'll have to call it a night. But like I used to work in a bowling alley back in Maidenhead, and I was down. My best mate worked in the workshop in like the technician area in the back, and I was down there with him and one of the bouncers, and we were talking about this girl that works there, and we were saying like, yeah, we should get her down here, like, and I said, yeah, we should get her down here like for a fag break. She's a good laugh, and then my mate was just like, yeah, she is a good laugh. Have you seen her when she's pissed? She's proper funny. And then the bouncer just out of nowhere goes like, yeah, and then we should fuck her. And we were like, whoa, we're just having what? Where did that come from? Like,
calm down, Rapey.
Yeah. It's like you need to settle down. That is a like.
Well,
That's a after 5 pints comment that you blurt out. That's not a sober. I'm on shift. I work in security comment.
how rough is Maidenhead that you had bouncers at a bowling alley?
Maidenhead's I could talk for hours about this stuff, but like it's a sort of tale of two cities, right? Because it's down the river area. It's Bolter's Lock. It's very nice. Riverside, loads of like GMTV or like TVAM back in the day, like Lorraine Kelly, Ulrika Johnson, Terry Wogan lived there. Rolf Harris before he was fucking kids.
Properly fucking rough then.
Yeah, it's like, but it's like it's quite an affluent area around that part. And then on the other side of town, on the wrong side of the tracks, there's a few council estates. I grew up on 3 of them. We moved around a couple of times, and it can be rough. Like it's quite weird. Like I grew up on an estate with one girl, and I kept in touch with her, and she said that she brought her boyfriend back to Maidenhead, and he had been in London for like 5 or 6 years, and the first night he was in Maidenhead he got mugged. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. But also it didn't really like, there's some trouble there, but it's,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I lived in Peckham for a year and a half, and I didn't get mugged at all, and people were like, you need to watch out, mate, don't go out too late. And I was like, it's the most gentrified, hipstery fucking place in the world. Like, doesn't feel dangerous to me. But then my girlfriend's from Peckham originally, and she was like, you don't have to scratch too far beneath the surface to get to the problems in Peckham. Like, I know it looks nice, but there's a lot of gang shit that goes on there still. So I don't know.
It's just a version of Boris Johnson's whole of ego.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit nice on top, little bit. I was about to say self-effacing. That's not really Boris Johnson at all, is it? Anyway, listen, mate, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And well, yeah, I'd love to get you back on.
All right, Tony the Tiger. Fucking hell.
I'd love to get you back on in a few weeks if you're free and if you're up for it.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
And yeah, if anyone wants to catch up with Billy, then he's on TikTok as Bounce Back a Billy blog, and on Twitter as Bounce Back a Bill 2, I think, from memory. Yep. And on Instagram as something very similar as well. So
but if you really want to see me, just TikTok, because I can't keep up with more than one thing at once.
TikTok's life right now.
I get overwhelmed.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us tonight. And anyone that's listening to this on the podcast, if you wouldn't mind leaving a nice cuddly 5-star review, that would be amazing. And I'll catch up with you all next week, Friday night, 7:30.